Welcome back to today's program, everyone, where we are speaking all about innovation. And now I have joining me business expert Jonathan Fahl, who's one of our regular guests, and also entrepreneur David Safi. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Great.
So I'll start off with David, and Jonathan, you're obviously going to comment on David's brilliant idea and what he's actually produced. So David, tell us a bit about yourself, first of all.
Well, I am, I guess you might call a serial entrepreneur. I've been involved with a number of companies over the years. I came over from the States 20 or so years ago, got involved with, actually did my PhD here, and as part of that we set up a company. It was a technology involved with delivering drugs into the skin, and it was kind of a cool technology as a PhD, and we realized that actually there might have some commercial potential with that, and so we set up a company, 4 of us sitting around a table, and turned that into a 600-person company and sold it eventually.
That's amazing.
To a California company. So,
how did that feel for you, seeing that happen and putting that work into it?
I mean, it's tremendously exciting to see something that you've been involved with, especially something that was basically your baby, develop and grow into something that that does become important, become useful. In this particular case, useful as a medical tool to really, and this was something that a lot of kids, for example, really loved because it meant they didn't have to use needles. They could
which most people are a bit scared of, aren't they? A bit apprehensive.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was a huge thing that we loved, seeing the face of the kids when they saw that they didn't have to have a needle.
Oh,
so,
that's wonderful. So it didn't stop there, did it, David?
No.
Then you went start thinking about something else.
Yes, and in this particular case, with this current company, I actually met with the 2 inventors who, and I'll tell you the story. It's quite an interesting story. This a chance meeting between a zoologist at Oxford University and a physiologist at Coventry University. They met a few years ago, and the zoologist was basically saying he really needed to. He was doing some work on badgers in the Oxford area and doing some research, and he was worried that some of the way when he had to transport them that they were becoming stressed, and he was kind of fretting that there was no way at that point in time to actually measure that stress. And so the physiologist, Dr. Rubina Mian, came up with, effectively developed over a number of months a way of actually doing that, and they did their first experiments out in the Oxford woods and showed that they could really differentiate the stress levels of animals that were being transported versus those that were staying put. And so that's when they realized that they had something really unique. This is the first time you could do that. There's nothing like this existed before that would enable you to actually measure that and measure those stress levels on the spot like that, and it's a so-called point-of-care test. So, I mean, it was, and they brought me in. They they found out about me and my background, and they invited me to get involved with the team. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then it's not just for animals anymore, is it?
No, not at
What
all.
happened?
It's for footballers as well. But actually, we've done a lot of work over the years to look at where is it going to really be, where the application's really going to be successful. And we've done a lot of work actually with footballers. A couple of premiership teams have used it. Even some Formula One drivers have used it. So we started out by looking at elite sports, but now we realize that it has so much more potential in so many other areas.
Yeah.
Take occupational health, for example, and stress in the workplace. And everyone hears about it every day, about the number of 10 million working days lost, I think, in the UK due to stress at work. And also military applications, where looking at trying to decide who's best can best cope with battlefield stress. Something like this is an ideal way of actually looking at and trying to identify.
Potential's huge, actually, isn't it?
We think so. We absolutely think so. I mean, another area is fertility. Actually, a lot of couples trying to conceive, and they're told, oh, well, stress is a huge impact. Stress really reduces the chances of success with conception. But the doctors tell them this, but they don't give them a way of actually measuring it. So now there's a tool that can be used by couples to actually really monitor their stress on a regular basis. And if you're able to measure something, that's the first step toward being able to manage the problem.
Yeah,
So.
brilliant. That's amazing. So Jonathan, what do you think of this?
Well, I mean, from the first time I met David, I thought the business had huge potential.
Yeah.
And when David explained that story just now, you can hear when it comes to innovation, especially in what this is called the Meditech sector. It's medical technology.
Yeah.
So many hours and often months and in most cases years of hard work and innovation is put in first to then create the product or create the solution that actually changes the world, that changes the way that human beings are able to monitor their stress levels, and as David referred to earlier, not just about people's immune systems, but also to help. It does so many different possible things. So David and I met through an innovation program where my company, Rockstar, was working with innovative companies like David's and looking at different ways to help and grow it. And when you've got a great piece of technology or a great piece of innovation, that's one thing, but what we always get excited about is an organization that's actually managed to take that and then sell it already to a unique market. So they focus predominantly on professional athletes. So there were a number of premiership clubs who bought the technology. Why? Because they're paying a lot of money to somewhat, talented and skilled individuals who are very good at kicking a ball around the field and are paid huge amounts of money for doing so. Yeah. And if they get injured, or if they're not well, or if they're not going to be well soon, the management and the company itself behind these clubs saw a huge value in paying a lot of money to have this sort of technology so they can always test and make sure that their players are in good fitness. Similarly with the Formula One team, who also paid for a device and continue to pay for the extra strips and what the technology is required to keep their drivers and to keep them aware as an organization how their drivers, how their players are performing. And that's where we met. And so what we're looking to do, and what we're very, very keen to do with David and Oxford Medi-Stress, the business, is to look at all the different other routes in order to take this product, to take this patented technology and sell it to the right and various companies, clubs, teams, and individuals, as David referred to, not just here, but also around the world.
That's amazing. Such an exciting journey. Now, how long has it actually been taken for you to get this product to market?
Well, it's we actually started a few years ago. I'd say it was about eight or so years ago when I first met with Rubina. But actually, it's in the early days, it was really doing finishing off some of the research, that was actually ongoing at the university. And then over the years, we started meeting with some of the football teams that were truly excited about this as a way of monitoring their players and looking at, for example, how they recover from niggling injuries. We had one example that we did a few years ago with a player who had come in, and this was when we were still up there kind of working with the team, so we had scientists up there on a regular basis. The team will remain nameless, but basically our scientist saw that one of the players was really scoring poorly for a couple of days in a row on our test, and we kind of reported that to the assistant coach, and also the player confirmed that he wasn't feeling 100%. So he was sent home, came back a few days later, rested, and his scores had come back to normal, and he was feeling great again. So, I mean, it really does work, and I mean, it really it gives a way of these scores often can reflect how someone is feeling. They may not want to admit it, but the good thing about this,
maybe they don't even realize the extent of what they're feeling.
And the great thing about this, it's your cells. This is coming from your immune system. Your cells don't lie. Sometimes you can convince your brain that I'm feeling great when you're not, but your cells don't lie. And so something like this really enables you to really look at how someone's immune system, which is a crucial aspect of a person's body, and looking at how that is functioning. The ability to do that rapidly, right there, literally on the spot. So within 10 minutes, boom, you got the result. That's powerful. We think that's
just the average Joe wanting one of those as well, just to carry around with them. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, it's actually been a debate. I mean, when we first met, David said this product should be sold on the shelves of Boots.
Yeah,
and I do agree with that. But this is, as it stands now, it's a very expensive piece of machinery. So what we're doing is the focus for us now, from our side, which is helping to sell this product, is to focus on the Harley Street practices or the private practices, to focus on more clubs, sporting clubs and teams, etc.
Yeah.
And we're trying to help raise investment and further funding for Oxford MediStress and David so that they have the ability to do further research to turn this large machine into something
small.
more slimline and effectively more cost effective, so eventually it can be sold on the retail shelves in the future.
Yeah, and it can also detect obviously the mental health issues that many people go through.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Which would be really, really handy for a lot of people.
And this is innovation. This is innovation.
Yeah. And just one thing as well, because obviously these things, all this hasn't happened overnight, and maybe that's where some people kind of fail, because it does take a lot of patience and dedication to really bring something like this to market. And do you think, Jonathan, that's something that kind of lacks in some people, and that's why they don't really succeed?
I think, as I said before, this is a product inside the Meditech sector, okay? So the moment you are doing something medically that is affecting the behavior in human beings and their cells and testing on it, it is an industry that absolutely takes a lot longer to be from innovation, from concept into something that can actually be sold.
Yeah.
So Meditech probably is in terms of a sector, the one that does take the longest. That you can imagine all of the health and safety regulations and the processes it has to go through, starting with animals, making sure it works, making sure it's not harmful, to then being able to produce results on humans. But innovation, in a word, it means so many different things in regards to what you can do as a business owner across multiple sectors, right? So, for example, in what we do, which is provide and help companies grow, we've just developed a new app, for example, because is that innovation? Do apps already exist? Of course they do, but not in the industry, in the sector that we are in. But it's still deemed as innovation because we're taking a product or a service, mainly a service, and delivering it in a more cost-efficient, fast way by leveraging off technology. So users out there and business owners who are out there, do they need patience? Absolutely. Do they need some form of budget in order to get it done and to get it working? Yes, they do, because when you're taking something, whether it be in the medical industry or whether it be in business services or different ways that people consume products and services, if you're going to be innovative, it means you're leveraging off technology, and you should be right now because it's helping us in so many ways. You're leveraging off technology to develop a new way for people out there to consume that product or service. So of course, time, testing, resilience, and ideally the right budget that you need in order to get through those tests, because it's not always going to work the first time, to bring something to market.
And that's why everyone's not doing it, because it sounds... Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Brilliant what you're doing, and I wish you all the best with it.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
All right, guys, so don't go away, because after the break, I'll be speaking to Coach Chris Brown.